Good morning and welcome to 30-Minute Reviews. I am Adam. I was going to talk about Joker because Joker Folie à Deux opens this week. I believe that's how you pronounce the title. Either way, it opens this weekend, and I'm sure rewatching that movie would not be a complete waste of my time if I were to do that. We're going to be reviewing it later today on, on Beware of Spoilers. I'm going to an early screening. So, get ready for that. And that'll be tonight. I believe we're looking at... I don't know. Either way, that's not what we're here to talk about, I think I've made my voice pretty clear on Joker, but we also had something happen on Friday that I think is worth time looking at. And the thing that happened on Friday was a lawsuit was filed in federal court by Sky. For those who don't know what Sky is, they are a streaming service that services mostly UK and Italy, but they do have some other places where they also service in Europe. And this lawsuit was Sky suing Warner Media, or Warner Brothers Discovery, as it's now called, for breach of contract. And the contract in question is, apparently, there was a pre-existing negotiated contract between Warner Media as it was under, when it was under AT&T, before AT&T sold it to Discovery. They had signed a contract for development of Max, or at the time, HBO Max originals. Warner Media would bring in development Max originals from the year 2021 through 2025 to Sky. Sky would get the ability to say yes or no on jumping on to co-produce the show, and that's basically how it worked. And I think the interesting thing about this is it does take into consideration, when you take into consideration what happened a few months back with kind of the Max original dying as things got rebranded under the HBO umbrella. I think that this kind of paints a sinister picture for what Warner Brothers is trying to do. Because one of the things that I said when we first talked about this was, well, without Max is is one of the big streaming services. It's on the same level as Disney Plus or Paramount Plus or Peacock or Netflix or anything like that. It's in that same kind of echelon of these paid, tier streaming channels. And the issue is, by getting rid of Max Originals and rebranding them to HBO, you're effectively limiting what can be produced, because the HBO originals are now tending to be more big genre stuff. Where Game of Thrones, they're big in the Game of Thrones business. We have all the DC shit coming from our friend James Gunn, and to that end, the fact that this is all just a ploy to get out of this co-production deal with Sky is questionable, because what would qualify under this deal as something that needed to be discussed, or at least presented to Sky, is any TV show in development for Max that is at least an hour long and is designed to go on for multiple seasons, because Sky is trying to establish its footprint within and maintain its footprint within the UK and Italy as this kind of streaming service that you can use while we don't have access to these things here. And the other weird thing about this is Max is planning to launch in 2025 in these territories. So what it seems like happened was, over the course of the last few years, not only did Warner Brothers plan to roll out into territories where it already is, and instead of saying these shows we'll just take the loss on, they just decided to rebrand and be like, okay, well, we'll hold... had they held off on Harry Potter for another 2 years? Because, let's be real. Harry Potter is the show that is kind of the inciting incident for all of this. And I think a lot of this comes from the fact that Warner Brothers has had a very rough go of it over the last few years. And a lot of it is they keep shooting themselves in various appendages and being like, oh God, look, we fucked up. Like, yeah, we know. We're witnessing this in real time. We all see that you fucked up. So, like, the Harry Potter announcement at the end of whatever thing that was felt a lot like almost 10 years ago at this point, when Nintendo saw how much Sony and Microsoft fucked up E3 and were like, let's just throw on a title treatment for Metroid Prime 4, and then we didn't hear anything about it until this year. That's what it kind of felt like. Where it's like, let's show we have something in development coming down the line that's going to be of interest to people. And that's what this felt like. We're doing Harry Potter again, we're going to be remaking it. That's where we're going with this. And, they're trying to reestablish a footprint with Lord of the Rings. They're trying to reestablish a footprint with DC. They're trying to milk Dune for all it's worth, but that is a very limited market. I can say, as a person who's read all 6 of Frank Herbert's Dune books, I mean, you are rapidly approaching a wall here where you're like, I don't know if these are going to adapt well as TV shows. Or movies. And to that end, being like, okay, well, we're going to do Harry Potter feels like the right move. Because then if you do Harry Potter, you're like, all right, well, we got our thing. We that's something big. The issue was they announced it too soon, and when they announced it initially, they announced it as a Max original. And what that means differently is that a Max original would have been subject to this contract. Now, had they done the smart thing and been like, we're getting back in the Harry Potter business with a limited series about the Marauders, then they would have gotten around this. Because limited series are exclusive. But because they blew their load, so to speak, metaphorically, gave the cum shot, and decided to say, we're doing a Harry Potter reboot of all 7 books as a multi-season experience, in an effort to try and stabilize the stock price, now you've opened yourself up to this lawsuit, because you've announced you're in development on it, you've announced you're a showrunner, you've announced you've started casting, and you're doing an open casting call. Well, it's now 2024. Until the end of next calendar year, you're still obligated to go to Sky and be like, well, here's what we're developing for Max. Which is why a few months ago, we got that weird backtrack where it's like, oh, it's not going to be a Max show, it's going to be an HBO show. And it's like, well, you announced it as Max, and you announced this big rebrand. It's all designed to avoid paying. And at the end of the day, what this is doing is, I think they may have had, I don't know if the contract was signed in America, and that's why they have to, I don't know if they don't have standing to sue in the European Union, because the European Union tends to take these stands against monopolies, these antitrust things, very seriously. Like, we saw that recently with Apple and Google and Meta have all been hit with these massive antitrust things that only impact them in Europe. Yet, here we are bringing this lawsuit in federal court, filed in New York, and I think the interesting thing is the impact to Sky is not something that will be felt here. The impact to Sky is something that will be felt internationally. If Sky is neglected this is something that's going to harm them in terms of the subscriber count. And that's what they're suing. It's like, look, it is too late for us to get involved now in a meaningful way. You've already started pre-production. You have scripts already. You know what you're doing. You have left us completely out of this, and that is not right. And they can't recoup that financial loss. So the question that I now have is, what's the impact for everyone else? And the impact is, if Sky goes away, that is an independent third-party streaming service that had partnered with large streaming services in an effort to bring international, we would consider them domestic, but international to them, titles to audiences. So now, you are now forced to pay more. If you want to watch Harry Potter in England, you would be obligated then to pay whatever price Max decides to charge at launch. if Max decides to charge $20 a month, which is what it is here, I think it's $21 a month, then all right, well, that sucks for you. You got to pay that if you want. They can charge a premium. It is the monopolistic thinking that's going to lead to higher prices, and that's the bigger issue here. Especially as more and more of these streamers lose their footing, they're going to feel less obligation to, keep prices competitive. But we'll wrap up there for today, because this is all speculation on my part. Let me be real about that. And look, I think a lot of this is based in reality, and I think that, this isn't just me talking out my ass. I read the lawsuit, I read the contract, because the contract is Exhibit A in the lawsuit. I think this is something we should keep our eyes on. But we'll wrap up there for today, and until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.